Welcome back. Now, getting into our conversation. Months ago, following the chaos and violence that ensued from the EndSARS protests, judicial panels were set up across the 36 Nigerian states, but not all of them, as part of the demands to signify that the federal government was committed to the eradication of police brutality. Now, led by Vice President Yemi Osinbajo and the National Economic Council, directives were given to various state governments to set up an impartial panel that would hear the victims of SARS-related abuses.
Well, since then, the various panels have been bogged down by meticulous efforts to derail their continuance from the Lagos state government forensically investigating days after the Tollgate violence to the Nigerian army challenging the validity of the panels and in some cases restricting investigations to some of their barracks around the country. Now, back in December, the Nigeria Police Force had filed a suit at the Federal High Court in Abuja seeking an order to stop the Judicial Panels of Inquiry.
Now, over 2,500 petitions have been received by the various panels, and the panels have everyone, but particularly people have been keeping an eye on the Lagos State panel. And that panel is under the spotlight also because of the shooting that occurred at the Lekki Tollgate on October 20th, 2020. The panel has now approved returning control of the Lekki Tollgate to its owner, the Lekki Concession Company, LCC. Now,
the panel had suggested operations of the toll plaza after military men stormed the plaza on Tuesday, that October 20th night, and fired gunshots at EndSARS protesters. Now, while Amnesty International put the death toll at about 12, the army, at the beginning of the panel sitting, denied killing anyone and insisted that the soldiers had fired only blank bullets at protesters.
So LCC had in December 2020 appealed to the panel to allow it to take over the plaza for repair and insurance claims, but this was declined by the panel since investigation into the incident that led to the closure was still being investigated. Now, joining us this morning is constitutional lawyer and public affairs analyst Liborous Oshoma. Liborous, good morning and thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Breakfast Central.
Yeah, good morning, Tolu.
All right, let's get straight to it. So the panels have come under fire from the very beginning. Police, the army as well. Many people have even said that the states aren't the ones who should be able to set up the panels, to questions of enforcement of the rulings or recommendations that come out from the panels later on. Where does the true power of the panels actually lie in this regard? Because if we're going through these exercises, there has to be power in the hands of the panel in order for us to really bear fruit at the end of this.
Yeah, first and foremost, I agree with those that have argued that the state governor does not have powers to set up such panels. Considering the provisions of the Lagos State Administration, Lagos State Panel of Inquiry laws, Section 1, Subsection 1 of that laws, powers the governor to set up a panel of inquiry into chieftaincy, local government affairs, and areas where they have powers to in matters where the governor has power to legislate on. And the activities of the Nigerian police and that of the Nigerian army is not one of such areas. And one would have expected also that, having said that the federal government, rather than asking states to collaborate with, to set up panels, the federal government would have collaborated with the National Human Rights Commission, because if you look at it, I think Section 4 of the 2009 National Human Rights Commission Act, it donated wide powers to the National Human Rights Commission, and they are the ones that have such powers to look into any matter that has to do with human rights. And then also, considering the fact that the Lagos State Governor is an interested party in the matter, his name has been mentioned consistently, as somebody who, requested the assistance of the military. But that said, there's need for us also to look at it from the point of view of the fact that it actually happened in Lagos, and being the governor of Lagos State, he decided to look into what actually the crimes, alleged crimes that were committed in his domain. And against that backdrop, some people have given the panel, the opportunity to look into, whatever it is. And considering the fact that actually it's a panel of inquiry and not to, they do not have powers to prosecute. It is to inquire into what happened. And so a lot of people had given them the opportunity, okay, let's see, since they are to make recommendations. But the moment the Lagos, the Nigerian police threw spanner in the works in December and were to challenge the powers of the panel, you know, some of us saw it as the beginning of the end of the panel because, but we still expect that someday somebody will rise up to say that the panel does not have powers to indict or to investigate. That would come, you know, maybe after all of this is done, because for me, I still see this panel thing as, you know, just a way of keeping us busy. Yes, you want a panel, we'll give you a panel.
Wow.
It's interesting you should say that, Liborous, because so that about 29 states, including the FCT, you know, set up these panels and the directive from the president, you know. We've heard so many stories from different states, but are these panels really living up to expectations? You know, Lagos inclusive too. Listen,
yeah, you know, living up to expectation is another thing. Apart from Lagos, really, and Abuja, that sits once in a while. Most of the other states, you know, panel of inquiry, I think you hardly hear of them again. You hardly hear of anything from those panels. I doubt if there's still any sitting going on in those areas. For Lagos, it's in the eye of the storm, because you would say also that it was in Lagos that the protests, you know, actually gained ground. And the fact that the army were invited into and what actually happened at the toll gate. And you also cannot rule out that video by DJ Switch. And, you know, that had gone viral and there are allegations flying. So that's why that of Lagos had consistently been in the eye of the storm. But with the events playing out, and as they had also played out in the weekend, you know, it also lays credence to the belief by some persons that there's more to it than meets the eye. But how I had expected that, you know, those activities would have been handled, you know, more professionally by members of the panel, by even the chairman of the panel, and even lawyers, you know, appearing before the panel. But it was not. Let's
get into what happened over the weekend. So the Lagos 9-man panel, which is led by Justice Doris Okuwobi, has returned control of the Lekki Tollgate Plaza to LCC. And they've been asking for this since December for insurance claims, and they say repairs. Not everybody on the panel agreed. We know that the youth representatives, as well as lawyer Adegorua, thank you so much.
They voted against it.
They voted against it. His surname skipped my mind there. And they've said that this decision is not one for justice, in fact, given the fact that the panel has not finished sitting. What do you think about this decision that has now been taken?
Like I said, let's start from panels and judgments. In every sitting, when you have more than one person, it's usually 1 or 3 persons or 5 persons or 7, as the case may be. There's always, you know, opportunity to break the tie. So in this case, you start from the quorum. The panel is a 9-member panel. When the panel was constituted, they were unable to sit because some members of the youth representative, you know, refused to join because they said they didn't have faith in the panel. And so because of that, the panel couldn't sit, even though they had 5 members at that time, but because they couldn't form a quorum. Until those members join, and we know the quorum for 9 members is about 6 or 7 to 3rd. And so when the panel sat to have 5 members sitting, the first thing is that there was no quorum formed. Even if they had, you know, an argument, you know, at the back room or in the office before sitting, I think they would have allowed, you know, it would have been tidier for all of the members to sit, let the majority, you know, deliver their ruling, and then also allow the minority to deliver their ruling, because that's the way it is done. In some cases, even in court, you would see even the majority judgment is delivered. All the other members would want to have a say on each area in as far as the judgment is concerned. It's either you concur or you dissent. But in this case, you have 5 members sitting, hearing the application, and then delivering a ruling, which for me was first and foremost faulty. They should have allowed, you know, all the members to sit. Then secondly, you have delivered a majority judgment, which will stand, like we always say. Majority will have their way, the minority will have their say. Having delivered a majority judgment, allow the minority also to deliver their judgment, because it is the majority judgment that would stand. Not allowing the minority to deliver their judgment and walking away, you know, would give paint the picture of the fact that there is something, you know, sinister. And then also, if this is a panel that is trying to win public confidence, you also create the impression that there is more to it. Considering the fact that just in December, you had ruled that the panel should not, the concession company should not be allowed to take over the toll gate because there was still a forensic investigation going on. And the forensic report had not been submitted. Even if the investigation had been concluded, you are the only one who is aware that the investigation has been concluded. The public and other members are not, of the public also that is following up with the report, are not aware that investigation had been concluded. So one would have expected that you make it transparent, or you call, you know, representative of the forensic audit, just the way you invited medical doctors, you know, before the panel, so that to give room for the counsels to ask questions whether, you know, there will be need to go back to the toll gate. And then lastly, you know, just last week, they also had issued a statement that the forensic audit report will be ready by February. And you're already in February. Even if it's February ending, what's the hurry? What's the rush? You've waited from October till date. You know, I do not see, you know, waiting till end of February. You know, I don't see anything that would change much. So you allow the report to be submitted. The moment the report is submitted, you don't even need an application. Haven't ruled before that, you know, they shouldn't go back, take over the possession. Once the report is submitted, at that point, you just, you know, give a bench ruling that, gentlemen, I think at this stage, we will know there will no longer be a need for us to go back. And so that order possessing or refusing, you know, the concession company from repossessing the toll gate has been vacated. Now they can go back.
Its course, basically.
You know, but now the report is not ready. You are the only one that is aware that, you know, the report will soon be ready and not the public. And then you now say that same order that you gave barely a month ago, you suddenly vacate the order. And then, you know, you create, you know, doubts. And then once doubts are created like this, there is no limitation to, you know, you also, you allow people to, you know, raise conjecture. And in opportunities like this, there's no limitation to the conjecture that the mind of man can raise. Especially considering the fact that right from the onset, people had said that the governor is an interested party, and he appointed the panel. And so there's a belief that, you know, they will do their bidding.
We've seen this Judicial Panel of Inquiry go into various stages since it started, especially once the military were there to even give their own evidences, which also led to the ruling in November about not giving it back to LCC Construction, the company itself. But now that it has, as we wait for that forensic audit from the auditors, Liborous, do you think that this in any way affects the public, because they are the ones now who will be driving day in, day out, should the LCC take over that toll gate? Through it, you know, back and forth.
Yeah, you see, first and foremost, the issue of repossessing the toll gate, you know, at this stage. Before I answer your question, I want to also raise a point that the counsel to the LCC, Seriki, raised, that Ebu Adegboruwa is an interested party in the matter, haven't sued Lagos State government for,
about
you
the
know,
toll gate.
About the toll gate, and that so he shouldn't be allowed to have a say. Ebu didn't just sue Lagos State government yesterday. Ebu had sued Lagos State government even before this protest. And Lagos State government is aware that Ebu went to court, took them to court as regards, you know, the panel. So the same Lagos State government, while constituted panel, appointed Ebu Adegboruwa, SAN, as a member of the panel. So they know already that, you know, being an interested party, he won't have a say in the matter. And so for me, that argument is neither here nor there. And I also believe a lot of people would have wished that, you know, this would bring an end to the toll gate in that place. But that's, for me also, it's a business place. That
perhaps a bit far-fetched.
That, yes, that you can't rule out. Maybe if at the end of the panel sitting, you might want to, you know, build monuments in remembrance of that event of that day. But to say that the toll gate should be removed completely, for me, will be very far-fetched. So what can be done? And that's why I say a lot of people had, right from the, you know, the inception of that toll gate, a lot of people had asked for alternative routes. There will be pressure if there are repairs that are going to be, you know, made in that place. There'll be pressure on motorists on that toll gate. Considering the free flow of traffic you have there now. And so once that pressure starts also, only God knows also what, that might lead to. That's why I think issues like this, considering the sentiment involved, I think issues like this should have been handled, more professionally, more carefully, so that at the end, you will say, well, with what had happened, we no longer need, anything from the toll gate. So it will be unlawful, it will be immoral for us to still restrain the owners from going back to take possession. But the panel report is not, the forensic report is not there. You say it will soon be ready, and it has not been submitted. You didn't call the forensic auditor for the public to hear directly from him. That will create doubt in the mind of the public that have been following, and especially all those also that believe that nothing will come out of it will say, we told you.
It feels like someone saying into. But Liborous, let me ask this, and I'll ask this as we wrap up now. Dating back to 1999, there have been a number of human rights judicial panels set up to investigate just atrocious killings in Nigerian violence. We've had conclusions from the IDP camp bombing, from Zaki Biam massacre, and a lot of them at the end of the day, they're just little investigation, sitting down, inaugurating panel, moving on at the end of the day. Reports from past judicial panels were either ignored by the enacting bodies, or the guilty officers and those involved were even further exonerated. So these panels across the states, the ones that are actually happening right now, because we know that Borno, Jigawa, Kano, Kebbi, Sokoto, Yobe, and Zamfara have refused to set up panels. Oyo and Kogi State still have constituted but have not sat. And we also know that there's a panel that has requested for more sittings, but that has not been approved. At the end, in a few weeks, in a few months, these panels will wrap up. Recommendations will be made. What is the likelihood of victims getting justice? What is the likelihood of recommendations actually being carried through, given the history of Nigeria when it comes to panels such as this?